would like to make a presentation about the last question, which is Japan's role in the world in 21st century. The Group C already mentioned about some points, very shortly and briefly in detail. So let's start. We divided into three main point of view. What is the role of Japan in the future, this century, 21st century? First is political point of view, and then second, economical point of view, and then the last, social point of view. So we will briefly and thoroughly speak about the role, what is the challenge it might be in the future, and what, according to our group, what is the recommendation for those challenges in the future Japan might face.
Thank you very much. As you know, in the national and international policy paradigms, there are so many issues to consider in larger perspective. Here, despite having different opinions among our group, we prioritize Japan's role in three broader political canvas. Number one is the role of Japan in liberal democracy in 21st century. As you know, and as we understand from the many political scholars, that liberal democracy in national and of course in international level facing huge challenges in many ways, in many trajectories. For example, in the name of nationalism, as we already heard this one, we see the win of America First policy. We see the win of, we see the referendum of Brexit. We see the withdrawal of TPP, US withdrawn from TPP, and of course, we see the rise of authoritarian and a kind of pseudo-dictatorial leadership in many parts of the world. So in this part, as a recommendation, we must say it is Japan time to speed up advocacy, to continue inspiring, and to lead gradually liberal democracy in home as well as in international spectrum. The second one is the ideology of peace. We already come to know many things from our previous group, that we are living in a world of continuous threats of missile and nuclear test. And also, even in the name of security cooperation, we see the military exercises in Asia Pacific and in the South China Sea and all around us. This is a pessimist political climate. Even in this political climate, we believe it is Japan time to accelerate the top-down campaign that is already on, campaign on disarmament and non-proliferation, that will help to transform military cities, the too much military cities, too much military countries, to the city of peace or country of peace all around us, because everyone, the ultimate destination of human earth is securing peace for every single citizen. North Korea is testing missile in the name of peace of their citizen. That's the ultimate peace. Anyway, and the last one, finally, in respect of regional and global relationship, again, we see the very blurring and negative picture. For example, as you know, the international institutions and regional institutions and associations, say for example, UN, ADB, G20, maybe G7 or G8, SARC, are losing their authority and gradually becoming fragile institutions in many respects, in terms of peace, in terms of security, and in many respects. So, though it is a very difficult to recommend in this point, and this is a very dark picture again, in such a situation, as this group is a very optimist group, we believe as a far-reaching visionary landscape, Japan, as a far-reaching visionary landscape, 21st century is truly a Japanese century. 21st century is truly a Japanese century, because if they keep inspiring, motivating, and spearheading the liberal international order in combining soft, we already heard soft and smart power. This 21st century gives Japan this kind of opportunity. So it is Japan time to grab it, to hold it. Thank you very much, and passing the mic, the next one.
So I'll talk about from the point of view of economy. So we have already talked about why Japan becomes like that largest biggest economy giant or something. But when we look at 21st century from the point of view of economy, we as a group thinks that Japan should continue as a leading country in manufacturing and technology center, because it's already proven that it is the leading giant in the information technology, electronic, and automobiles across the globe. And the second one is Japan should continue to contribute as a bridge between Asia and the West. So it should be the diplomatic and leading region between the West and the Asia Pacific by tying bonds in the relationship between these countries like Europe continent also. For example, they should continue to lead TPP because we as a group see that TPP as a broader strategy to offset China's upcoming dominance of both in economy and diplomatic sector. So, but for the challenges, we divided into outside and inside challenges. For the outside challenges, in the context of globalization, we put it as a challenge because of the fact that the emergence of new competitors like non-Japanese multinationals, the Asian upcoming industries, and cooperation from South Korea, Taiwan, and China. And also the drop in numbers of Japanese MNC in global market. But we didn't say that Japan is like a dropping number. That dropping number, it didn't say that Japan is lagging behind. But we can say that it is relevant for the Japanese company to lead in the manufacturing sector, but they are losing ground to their neighboring countries as well as to the India. So for the recommendations, we would like Japan to increase fair international trade and foreign investment, like they continue to lead the TPP, and by enhancing the relationship not only with the West but also with the European countries and the Asia Pacific region also. And the second one is to expand the investment to the certain service industries. Since Japan has already been leading in the manufacturing sector, they can also expand their investment in the distribution, retail, or transport, something service industries. And the third one is the enhance of the labor force involvement. It's already been discussed from the formal group about the equality, gender equality of the women. And we have heard about the lifelong employment and seniority system, which has been facing the difficulties for the Japanese MNC by the host countries which they try to operate. So we would like to the government as well as the private sector to cooperate and create the environment for all the genders equally. And the next one is the develop entrepreneurship and innovation. We feel that the Japanese market is like a conservative, and both the corporations and the consumers, they are highly risk averse. So we would like the government as well as the private sectors to welcome all the other entrepreneurship and innovations. And the last one is to make the major cities as a global startup hubs. Like for Tokyo, we have heard that 18% of the GDP is coming from Tokyo. So like Tokyo, we can just make other major cities also. So for the social point of view, my friend will talk about it.
Thank you. For the social point of view, they think that Japan should continue to play that role of educators. By education, we are referring to the Japanese high sense of self-discipline, patriotism, and bravery. We know that during the Meiji period, Japan sent many of its citizens abroad to learn technical skills. And by the end of the studies, many of these citizens returned to Japan to transfer what they've learned abroad. So we think that some of these values, Japan should continue to promote these values across the world. As challenges, we think that trying to import these values abroad, Japan might face some cultural differences as well as language barriers. As a recommendation, we think that Japan should continue to adapt its educational system to the international standards, as well as incorporating more international languages such as French and English. And also Japan should open its countries to many foreigners like us. They should allow more skillful brain to Japan to contribute to the development of the country.
Okay, I would like just to add from the social point of view. A role from civil point of view can also Japan can promote inter-civilization dialogue. For example, Japan needs to deepen its dialogue with other different religions or civilizations, such as the Islamic world, so that to ensure the protections of the difference, because it can the difference can cause the conflict as well. And another point is that to encourage volunteer work, Japan's overseas cooperation volunteer to be respect to other countries as well, and also increase ODA for human resource development, not just for only the economic development, in order to ensure the sustainable development. Okay, so I would like to continue to my friend to wrap up.
Okay, thank you. I will only give you the summary of what we have discussed, and politically we talk about the role of Japan in terms of global peace and security, and economically we are encouraging Japan to continue to be a leading partner in manufacturing economy, like automobiles and other things, and socially we know the system of education in Japan to me is very important, especially for the junior high school, whereby everyone is involved in dealing with the activities of maybe their classroom or the whole school. So they should continue with promoting education. And we know there are some challenges, and we mentioned some of them, like politically we have North Korea and China, and economically we have you see the current market of the world is becoming more competitive, and China is also rising up in terms of the economy, and in terms of challenges socially that can be faced through education on top of culture and language. So there were some recommendations given by my group, and I will not read all of them. The part thing that we recommended Japan to do is to be creative in global leadership, and also to continue to increase international trade affairs and foreign investment in other countries. And for education, we try to recommend to the Japanese government or Japanese people. They say that different languages should be taught. For example, a Japanese company or firm wanted to go to Africa. In Africa, Africa is divided into regions. There are French region speaking countries, English-speaking countries, Arabic-speaking countries. So if Japanese really want to invest in Africa, they should also incorporate those different languages into their system of education. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks. And any questions or comments? Yes.